Hi, I'm Child Development and Early Learning Specialist Stacy Benge, and if you've been watching my videos, we've been talking about the writing process in young children. If you haven't seen them yet, please go back and watch my video on emergent writing, and please watch my video on drawing because that will give you an idea of some of the early stages that children go through in the writing process. Between the ages of 3 and 4, if your child has had enough experience with drawing pictures and having those opportunities, you might see a child start to write letters, or more so draw letters on his or her paper. And what letter can you expect to see? The first letter of the child's first name. And what this is showing is the child is starting to connect that letters are purposeful and that they are needed to convey a message. So the first example that we're looking at is a child whose first name started with the letter M. You see the child drew a little person, and then you see M's all over the piece of paper. Notice the inconsistency of the size and the shape of the M. And that's okay because this is the first, the child's first experience with the letter. And you might see the child repeat this over and over on their drawings. And they're connecting with this letter and they're showing, hey, letters are needed to help convey the message that I'm putting on my paper. Eventually what you might see happen is you might see a child put a bunch of letters together to create letter strings. And this is the next example that we're looking at. This is a child who just took some random letters and put them together on a piece of paper. This might be also accompanied with a picture as well. But this again is that the child is starting to show that yes, letters come together to create words and those carry meaning. So when a child does that, ask them, oh, tell me what does your paper say? So that's showing that we acknowledge that they're attempting to do this and that we're respecting that what they're putting on paper does carry a meaning. Don't say, well, no, that doesn't spell anything. Say, well, you tell me, what does that spell or what does that say? Eventually, if a child has what's called phonemic awareness skills, and this is a pretty advanced skill, this is where a child has the ability to discern small units of sound, that's what we call a phoneme. So when you're breaking words apart, you're actually breaking down the phonemes. And we'll talk more about that later, but when a child has that ability, the child might draw something on a piece of paper, and then when they tell you what that is, they might be able to connect that first sound of what's on the paper, and they might actually write that letter on there. And so this next example shows a child who's drawn a dog, and they have the phonemic awareness skills to break down the first sound of dog, connect it with the letter D, and then write that letter on their paper. Some other things you might expect to see when children start experimenting with letters, you might see them make some mock words, you might see them do some invented spelling as their phonemic awareness skills improve, and they can kind of start hearing those sounds and connecting them with letters and putting them on paper. And eventually what will happen in the elementary years is a child will actually start conventionally spelling words, and that's when they'll be in the role of a full-fledged writer. So, what does this tell us when a child's putting letters on a piece of paper? It's showing that the child realizes that in addition to their picture to convey a meaning, that words can also be used to convey the meaning as well. And the child starts to show that they realize that pictures and letters and words are actually two separate things but working together to convey the same message. This also is showing that the child realizes that when he or she sees print, that he realizes that this actually carries meaning. So that's that print awareness. And these things are very important in the writing process. So before a child can actually sit down in elementary school and write a story, they have to make these connections first. It's very important in this process that we realize that when a child starts to draw letters on a piece of paper, it does not mean that they're ready for formal writing instruction. A child's physical development needs to be to a certain point before we start those dot-to-dot worksheets. We need to look at the eye-body coordination, the visual processing, how much muscle strength they have in their hand. There's a lot of things that go with that writing process, and we'll talk about that more also. But just keep in mind, a lot of times as parents, we get so excited, we see the letters on paper, and we're like, oh, we need to start the writing instruction. That does not mean that at all. That just means that the child is connecting that letters are purposeful, they're grouped together to form words, and those words convey a message. So please let me know if you have any more questions on this part of the writing process, and I would love to answer those for you. Please let me know if you have any more questions regarding early childhood, early education, child development, or parenting. And please subscribe to my channel. Let me know what are the different topics you would like for me to address, because I would love, to answer the questions that you might have. So until then, and be watching my next video, we're going to be talking about what are some other things besides just paper and crayon, which I've mentioned a lot, but what are some other things we can do as well to help encourage this writing process, this storytelling process. So please be watching for that. Until then, get out your blank paper and crayons and get to drawing.